Hello and welcome back to the channel. Thank you for joining me in another of my wonderful interviews. Have you ever landed yourself in court and have you felt, blimey, this is a bit strange, everyone seems to be against me? And maybe they are. Maybe it's not the best place to be to argue your case or to bring somebody or even to defend yourself. Maybe we need something that was around in the past and seems to have disappeared. We've heard of these trial by juries, but very often turns out to be a jury trial, which is a very different thing. A name that has been bandied about and given to me, and I've seen online, is something called the Common Law Court. We've heard a lot about common law and we discuss it on this show quite a lot. And a gentleman by the name of John Smith has been bandied around to me, and I thought it's about time I got him on the show and find out exactly what the Common Law Court is that he is responsible for. So John joins me now. Hello, John.
Hello, welcome to the show. Thank you, and hello to all your viewers.
Thank you very much. Well, yes, as I say, I've heard a lot about the Common Law Court. People have referred me to you, and I think at some point I've been on your website and had a look, but I've been on so many websites and had a look at so many variations of it.
Yeah.
I thought we should get into the nuts and bolts of what that is and what it is you do. Could you tell me what you consider your position to be? Are you the founder of this court or anything?
I'm just an individual member of the public like everyone else.
Right.
In relation to the Common Law Court, I had taken on, having a lengthy career, I decided to take on my previous employers, and there was a dispute which went to court. Now, at the time, because I was licensed within this industry, to protect my license had left, but I went to court for the remainder of my contract. Now, what they did is they used the assistance of the government to attack me. And literally, says, while I couldn't work within the industry, I went to court to deal with it and lost everything, savings, house, lost everything, family. But what we did is I went to court myself after being bankrupt to deal with the sheriff in Scotland, which is the equivalent of your judges. And the sheriff had stated to me in court, it doesn't really matter what you think you are, it's a statement of the living man. He says, we have our own law here, and what you think common law is, it doesn't apply here. So he then proceeded to prosecute me. Now, that was it in a nutshell. So when I came away, and again, I'm not sort of backward at coming forward, but I thought, while I'm quite happy to deal with a judge on my own, not having been in court, what would happen to a family member, a friend, your next door neighbour? If they are not aware of how the system works and they were to go to court, like I did the first time, there exists no lawful remedy in the courts. I found out very quickly that they're not even courts, they're registered companies. But not only that, it's all done for profit. So when I sat down and decided, oh, this can't happen, I've tried literally every solution you can think of for the 12 years to try and get a result in the court to confirm that I was right. Now, without a doubt, this is after 8 years, I managed to confirm I was right. So what had happened is I suffered substantial loss that affected my family, friends, everyone. It's never been put right to this date, and we can confirm that I was right. However, given the feelings of the court system, I sat down and thought about it. I thought, look, we need to do something. So we sat down and had a conversation, as himself and the partner, that we in 2016 on Christmas Day. And after about 12 years, we thought, we can't do this. We can't get on. We can't continue. You have to literally accept the fact that you're never going to win.
Yeah.
So we left that and said, look, we got on with our lives. We can't waste more time. But the next day, on Boxing Day, I thought about it overnight and thought, look, I don't like this. I don't like what they're doing to the people. I'm not happy with this. Look, I can't give up. We've tried for 12 years to come up with a solution. It doesn't work. You'll never beat them. It says, can we continue what we're doing for an additional 6 months? Now, if we cannot come up with a solution to beat them or find a way to beat them, we'll just get on with our life. And literally within a couple of weeks, it came up with a solution. It's simple. It says if their courts do not provide a lawful remedy, and if their courts are fraudulent and are criminal and they don't exist for justice, don't use them. So we decided to create the common law court. Now, having spoken to many people and friends and people who knew a lot about their system, we put together a proposal and say, what do you think of this? And it was clear, after speaking to a number of people within the UK and even internationally, that they said, yes, you're right, you can do it. So I convened a court to deal with a dispute that I had on the Sunday, it was 11th of June in 2017. And when we convened this, what we did is we published a notice, a public notice to invite the public to attend. Now, I actually went down to Dunblane because I wasn't from Dunblane. I was quite a while away, a good bit away. But also, I didn't know the people who were attending. So we advertised the fact the public just turned up. There's a procedure for running the court, but a jury was selected, court officers were selected, and we convened the first court. So we had the trial, and when we got the paperwork, we obviously published the result to make sure it was all above board. And when we published it, we made the mistake of calling it the Scottish Common Law Court, simply because it was based in Scotland, the hearing.
Right.
We were contacted by people in the UK over the next month or so, and this is brilliant, we love it. Can we do this as well? So people in England, Wales, Northern Ireland say, we want to use it. I said, look, anyone can use it. It's basically a court of the people. You can use it, providing it's done lawfully. There's not a problem. But of course, they went on and on and on about it. So we changed the name. This is that we used to Common Law Court Great Britain. It was great. But of course, being people, over the next couple of months, we're being contacted by people in America, Australia, Europe, Africa. So we changed it one final time, and we've came up with a name, which is Common Law Court Great Britain and International. So it covers everyone. From there, we actually have people using it from 188 countries. So the system was set up, but bearing in mind, I, like anyone else, yourself included, is just a member, a living man or a living woman. The Common Law Court itself is the people. That's it. That's where the authority comes from. And as I said, anyone can convene a court providing it's done lawfully. It's fine, and we've done so for a number of years. We've developed the concept, and we've now helped set up a community as well. So we've done this to protect the people, and we're having quite a lot of success.
I think that one of the things that obviously attracts people to something that is where the people are the in control instead of a private entity like the private bar guild is that it is run by the people for the people. Yeah. And of course people will identify with that. Why would a private company ever have that jurisdiction to be able to control people's lives? Yeah. The problem is that most people, I'm guessing, do not know that the court system that we have in this country is not only private, but is incredibly corrupt and is not really there to do justice, but actually is to act as a bank to try and get people's money. Where does the idea of the common law originally come from that you're using, that the people rather can use to convene the courts?
I think what we did when we realised the existing courts are not fit for purpose, we decided we would have to do something, but we looked back over history and we looked at various sources. Even within the UK and England, they had an old system whereby they based the courts on local areas or parishes. From there it developed, and obviously the Crown got involved to set up the courts and proceeded from there. If you go back a couple of thousand years, people, obviously the Greeks, they were actually convening courts, and it was jury by trial. So what happened is if your next door neighbour or someone in the village had stolen something from you, a cattle or anything, you had a right to obviously have them prosecuted. But the way it would work is the local people in the community would gather, and even over in Greece, what they would do is they would all gather for a hearing, and everyone would actually in attendance would be the jury. So the case was presented, obviously the plaintiff defendant would argue, defend themselves, and then what would happen is a decision would be made. And because it was from the community, they would then enforce it. However, we've taken this, it's developed over the years, And again, within the UK, they proclaim to have a justice system which is unique to them. They set up and they build themselves as sort of world leaders in the concept of law, which is ludicrous because it's nothing to do with law. And as you said, it's all about money. Looked at the system and said, well, what we need to do is hand it back to the people. The people actually determine it's just whether or not you're innocent or not. You proceed with a case, you put it before a jury of your peers, which is the highest authority. They make the decision, and then we obviously try and enforce these decisions. But it was based on history and previously what happened. Now, this is also confirmed. The approach we've adopted as well. If you go to the statutory authorities, the highest authority they have is the United Nations. Now, I'm not asking for an opinion on the United Nations, but basically says they are the supreme authority there. However, they themselves confirm that we can set up what we've actually done. And they verify that even with the community we've set up, we're allowed to do that. So there's not a problem. So all we have to do is set up these courts, join the community, work together, and you can provide your own lawful remedy, which the state have to comply with. As I said just now, it's not something we're not reinventing the wheel. This
No.
was there anyway. It was there in the past.
Presumably, there is a lot of pushback by those people in the legislative world who are very anti what you're doing, because you're effectively taking away what they think is power, which they shouldn't have in the first place.
Okay, well, I says we're having the conversation, but we'll have to be very careful with words.
Yes.
Because we're saying that the state may not like what I'm doing, but it's not me who's doing anything.
No.
I'm not the common law court.
Right.
Basically, I convened the court to obtain a lawful remedy. So I asked for the assistance of the public. Now, when the public came in, they would explain how the process works, to give them a detailed description. We went through everything, and then if they decided to proceed, they convened the court, and I put forward my case. Now, we've done this before, but the state, the things we have to get clarified for your viewers. The common law court has not been, and is not a registered company. We have nothing to do with the state, nothing to do with it at all. But people keep saying, well, you're a registered company, we know you are. Well, it's not a problem. If we're a registered company, release the information and let everyone know. It doesn't exist. We're not a company. We can't be a company. So that's the first thing. Because we take on the state and individuals who have actually infiltrated as well have came in to try and bring us down, attack us, steal from us. They've done that on numerous occasions. The latest ones that closed us for 5 months because of the website. But we've actually had everything secured and fully backed up. And each time we came back stronger. Personally, at this moment in time, there's currently a warrant out for my arrest because I actually went to court a few weeks ago, and basically when I was dealing with an issue, I convened the common law court against the judge and the prosecutor in Scotland, which is called the Sheriff and the Procurator Fiscal. So they had prosecuted me in their own law, under their own law, and I had said to them I didn't have an issue with that, but I'm going to challenge it because it's unlawful and it's illegal, and I'll challenge it. So we did that, but they refused to hear my challenge, and they done that. And because I kept pushing it and I convened the common law court against them, they didn't like it being served up with papers. So they decided they were actually going to force the issue by forcing me to pay a fine. So they convened the court recently, and they issued a warrant for me to a summons for me to attend. Now, I don't mind. It's because my view is they have no authority, they have no jurisdiction. I've confirmed my standing, and in relation to what they're doing, it's a contractual dispute. And not only that, but I'm out with our system because I'm in the community, which the community have set up. So I went to court having produced paperwork, which I handed in to the judge. And as soon as the judge and sheriff had said to me, he says, confirmed he stated there was a living man. And I then referred to the paperwork, which he refused to look at. He acknowledged receipt of it. And when he turned around and said, look, I need you to confirm that Mr. John Smith, which I wouldn't do. And I explained to him who I was. He says, I'm not accepting that, forget it. And he basically says, I'm issuing a warrant for your arrest. and he literally got up, and I've never seen somebody move so fast in all my life. He left the court. Now, I spoke to the police who were in attendance there, because we have police in Scotland, they set up security guard. I says to him, is this judge, the sheriff, is he serious? He's got to be joking what he's done. The policeman says, well, you should have answered him. I said, but I did answer him, but he's not answering me, and he's not doing it appropriately. He said,
Yes.
well, he's issued a warrant to arrest. I said, that's fine. I said, well, we have a job enforcing that. And the clerk just said, you have to leave now, so we got up and left. Now, since then, we've filed criminal charges in their own system against the judge, the clerk, also the head of the prosecution service, and also the head of the legal system, which is like the Attorney General in Scotland. It's called the Lord Advocate. So this is currently the Chief Constable, which have asked for criminal charges to be raised. And again, given the paperwork we put in, we've confirmed that he was in court, and what the judge has actually done, after speaking to me in court, the judge has confirmed that he's ignoring it, and he's saying that I wasn't in court. Now, for your viewers, and may have heard the argument, and I've pointed it out to the judge and the police. The sheriff, the judge, was in court. He spoke to me, I spoke to him, and I spoke to various other people. He then says that he was issuing a warrant for my arrest. He spoke to me. Now, I've pointed out that if he speaks to me in court and he cannot determine whether or not I'm there and I'm a living man, he must be mentally incompetent. And if he's mentally incompetent, he shouldn't be sitting there judging in this manner. However, I did actually say that in relation to being mentally incompetent, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and say, well, I don't think he is. But if he's not mentally incompetent, that's confirming that he's spoken to me, he's accepted I'm a living man, he can't prosecute me. So what he then does is say, well, I'm dealing with the person. And because you won't admit to being the person, I'm going to issue a warrant for the arrest of the person, Mr. John Smith. So he said he would do that, but that's slavery, because he's taking a name, which is a person, Mr. John Smith, and he's trying to attach to me as a living man. That's slavery, it's fraud, it's criminal coercion. And again, at one point, he did actually threaten me with imprisonment. He says, well, the only reason I'm here today is to deal with this fine, and obviously to find out why it's not paid. And if you're not going to pay it, to decide whether or not I'm going to put you in prison. Which I laughed at, and I obviously referred them to my paper, and he said, I'm not looking at it. So therefore, there's no justice in the system. There's a warrant out just now, but the Chief Constable is dealing with it. I'm trying to obviously prosecute these individuals within their own system, and we have a common law court order against the judge and procurator fiscal. Now, the court order we have, because of the work we've done, we've just established, is over a period of time, that the court order we have for common law is legally acceptable. Now, because it's legally acceptable, they have to comply with it. If they refuse to comply with it, under their own system, they're in contempt of court. And if you're in contempt of court, it carries up to, I think it's £1,000 or a couple of £1,000 fine, but also up to 2 years imprisonment.
Right.
Contempt of court. So we've passed that on to the police as well, but unfortunately they don't know what to do with it. So we're sitting there and I'm still waiting for a response. Meantime, I'm sitting pushing this, because rather than letting it go and just accepting it, we're actually pushing to enforce the decisions we have. And again, because we've got them to confirm that our documentation is valid and legally acceptable, is it means that they have to comply with the order. So there's quite a lot going on just now.
Yes, I can see that. But just going back to the sort of the practicalities of the people taking the decisions for what is lawful, particularly in their own area. I'm assuming that you haven't got to use the public buildings that are used by the courts, even though you could argue that those are our buildings. We've paid for them in our taxes.
Yeah.
So where would you convene your common law court? In a town hall or another type of public place?
Well, we've actually, effectively, any building can do. What we'd suggest, if you have a building, it must be large enough to accommodate at least a minimum of 50 for the public.
Yeah.
The public have to have access to it. You then have to have a place available in that room to make sure that you can accommodate a jury and obviously the individuals, the officers of that. And then providing you have that, what we do is we ask for one additional room. Now the room is obviously just requires a table, but has to accommodate the jury members. So when the case is been dealt with, the jury members leave, remove themselves, go to this room to sit and adjudicate on the matter to give their verdict. Now, if we do not have an additional room, you can use one large room, but when the case and the jury are going to be deliberating on the verdict, all the people in the room have to get up and leave the room and go outside until they're recalled, because the jury have to have a room for privacy. But you can use the one room as long as you clear it, or if the other side doesn't find out, you can have any room. We've actually used the Holiday Inn. We've used, believe it or not, we actually got a social club. We found out it was actually the Labour Party. Now, we're not political, we don't mind, but we're actually trying to find a venue. So we're told about this club, which we went to, and we found out there was obviously a social club for the Labour Party. We went and we had a court hearing in Glasgow. Now, we were told again it was a sort of community room, a community building. So we went to the community building, which was fine. But we actually found out afterwards that the community building was sectioned off and there was some car parking in the building. And next to that, there was a church premises. Now, we'd actually convened the court. It was for a public meeting, which we told everyone about. So they actually went about, we paid the fee, we come in, we convened the court. We then published the information and prosecuted individuals. They had in turn contacted the building, the owners, and said, look, what's happened here? We've just got this paperwork. We actually found out that the owners of the building were in fact the church. So the church had kindly wrote this and said, look, all you've rented this building, that's okay. We didn't understand what you were doing, but we're stating now that we're not going to make that available for future use, which is fine, it's not a problem.
Right, yeah.
We've conducted cases everywhere, in hotels and social clubs and private clubs and community centres. So we do that. But obviously, we're fortunate enough with the help of people. I've managed to obtain a building in Dundee. It's a very large building for what we're going to use for the community. We actually run an office here. The website, we don't have a company, but the point being is when we have a common law court, for what we do to assist the people, we need to have something there. So you have a website. So I've obtained ownership of the website. We've created that. We've developed that with assistance of the people. And we've had assistance to get premises. So we have premises now, which we will allow the common law court to use. So basically, we have a building here, and we have been with the courts in here recently, as over the last year or so. So the building is set up here, it's ideal. We can probably accommodate probably 100 to 150 people in total. We have a jury room as well, and the building can be used for lots of additional facilities so for the community. So you can go to any building you want.
Yes, as long as the public have access and they're not being stopped to go in, which of course we've often seen in these so-called courts that we have up and down the land, that security are often not allowing a number of people in, or the court won't let members of the public, and it's not recorded so that nobody can look back. And I'm assuming that everything is recorded because it's on the public record.
Yeah.
So when you get to a decision, you've presented both sides of the argument. As I understand, a trial by jury in the old-fashioned sense would be that not only is the jury coming to the conclusion of whether whichever side is going to win, but also whether the law that was broken or the law that has been brought to the case can also be changed, because it may be that it was just a nonsensical law, like a camera filming a bus lane or something that nobody normally drives, and at 3 o'clock in the morning someone accidentally went into it and they get a fine, and you just think, well, that's just stupid. That the jury can make the decision. Is that how it works?
Yes. Well,
yeah.
So we speak about laws. The common law works basically under 4 principles: cause no harm to anyone, cause no loss to anyone, cause no injury to anyone, and ensure that you're honourable in contractual dealing. That's it. Now, the statutory law, the so-called laws that they have, you can take any statutory law in the world, and there's literally hundreds, if not thousands of them. Every one of them will fall under one of these categories. So all you need is these four laws: corporal harm, loss, or injury in contract. So the fact that they create all these laws is not done for the public safety or to protect them. It's done for money.
Yes.
Every law they have, you pay for everything. Now, as I says, as long as you have suffered harm, loss, or injury, or you've been on the receiving end of a dodgy contract, you can go to a common law court and they'll deal with it. Now, we don't deal with statutory laws because they're not laws. But what you do is you present your case to the jury and state that you have suffered harm, loss, or injury. And when you do so, you tell them how it's affected you. You put forward a case, and you can put in a request for damages. Now, we don't turn around and put in because someone has committed a crime and they've asked you to pay a bill. We don't turn around and say, well, we're not paying that, we'll get a decision from the court. But because what you're doing is criminal, we're going to fine him or obviously get a verdict against him for £2 million. That doesn't happen.
Right.
If anything, we are actually 10 times better in the state courts because everything is addressed individually and any punishment is appropriate to the crime and the individual. So you can't come in and find someone that's a couple of £1 million when they're on minimum wage.
Right, it'd be a nonsense.
Small position. It's ridiculous. So it has to be obviously applicable to the crime committed. Now, if we actually turn around and we abuse the system we have, there's no point in having it because we're actually 10 times worse than the state. System. And what your viewers can think about when you actually think about the common law court, you say, right, okay, we've been doing this for 7.5 years. We've prosecuted judges, we've prosecuted cabinet ministers, ex-prime ministers, we've prosecuted literally everyone you can think of, any of the authority of the state and different countries, and even judges. Now, having done that, there is a crime, this is in the UK just now, this will probably be applicable internationally. If you produce documentation and you state that it's been issued by a court, and that it's not actually genuine, you're committing a crime of what they call uttering false documents, and that carries with a 7-year prison sentence. So we not only issue court summonses to even judges, and we prosecute them, we issue court orders and verdicts. We do that. If anything that we do was not acceptable, we'd all be in prison. That's not happened. They can't do anything to us. So that alone confirms that what we're doing is correct. Now, unfortunately, when you deal with people, and this is there's many, many people trying things to protect themselves, and we've tried many, many things. I've done it myself. There are many, many good arguments to be used in different systems available, but they all fail because you're interacting with the state. Now, the point is, what we do is we deal only with common law and the common law argument, and that is authority, jurisdiction, it confirms your standing. We actually have, which is ludicrous, we have, because of the community we're in, we have created a lawful birth date. So at this moment in time, I would presume you don't have a lawful birth date, or you haven't confirmed that with the common law court and the Croon community. So what we're doing is say that if we ask you for a birth date and the state you ask them for a birth date, you will both give the same date.
Yes.
However, he says everyone in the world in authority, so-called authority, police, hospitals, doctors, politicians, your next door neighbour, everyone will confirm that that date when you were delivered by your mother, they will confirm that that was a result of carrying you for 9 months. During that 9 months you were living. So therefore, your date of creation, which is approximately 9 months before, you can make a declaration on the court site for a lawful birth date, and that's confirming the date you believe that you were created. So you get your lawful birth date. Now, in the case I just went to in the court, as of recently, they are prosecuting me as an individual, a person, which is confirmed, Mr. John Smith. They then give a date of birth, which is a state's date of birth. That was the date that I was delivered. That coincidentally is the date that the person was created. It's not my birth.
Right.
I gave them a lawful birthday. Now, because I gave them a lawful birthday, that means they're prosecuting the wrong individual. Now, I actually contacted the court. They've accepted my common law court documentation, and they've accepted the fact that I have a different date of birth. So that fact alone confirms that they can't prosecute me, because
Right.
the system with a different date of birth. As soon as you give them the date of birth that the state used, you're creating joinder. So they're going to argue that.
Yes.
If you remove yourself and you create a new date of birth, which is a genuine one, no, they can't say, we're not accepting that, it doesn't exist. It's a fact in law. You were conceived approximately 9 months before, and they
Yes.
dispute that you are living. So
And presumably, you can't give them the precise date of when you've been conceived. I mean, it has to be an approximate date.
basically what we do is to allow people to use this. If you believe that your birth was okay, we've said just take to the day 9 months before. That's
Right.
okay. If you know that your mother had obviously went over her due date and maybe a week or 2 weeks, you can add it. So it's not 9 months. You can not adjust it by 2 weeks.
Yeah.
If you believe just now that you are premature, what's reasonably acceptable now in the world, that you can probably be premature and even as much as 3 months, and it's just now pretty certain that you'll survive because of
Yes.
knowledge. So you can go back even 3 months premature and we'll accept it. So basically, if you believe or you know that you're premature, within this period from between 6 to 10 months, you can select a date in there. Now, once you make a declaration of your opinion that that was your date of birth and you declare on the common law court in the accruing community, we accept it and that's it. So that's no sealed for time. It cannot be altered, changed. It's a declaration by yourself, but you can't turn around if your mother delivered you and obviously you have a birthday with the state. You can't turn around and say, well, I don't like that. I wish to go back 2 weeks and say, well, I was created 2 weeks before. It doesn't work that way.
No.
So approximately, it says within that band, you get to
Right.
it. If you do that, that then gives you a lawful birth date and it removes you from the state.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting because the date that they've created is an artificial date anyway. Because, that's somebody signing on a document, and we're all supposed to believe that that's it. I mean, it is a bit mad, and I suppose you're quite right when the question it becomes quite a philosophical question is when does life come into you at the beginning. When the egg and the sperm come together, or 9 months later, when you're clearly alive, you're clearly alive in the womb. You've only just got to make the emergency exit.
We don't have to verify everything as a fact because you can't.
No,
but we know roughly it's acceptable within that period of time.
Yes.
Create it. So therefore, within that period, you can make a declaration of your belief, and that's it. Now, it can be challenged because you were living. Because, your mother obviously was carrying you in the womb, but that's it. Now, they can't argue that. And if they want to argue the date they have, it's irrelevant. But the date coincidentally they give is actually the date for the creation of the person, which is not you.
Which is not you. And that, I mean, I just think that is a very interesting point that's worth letting people sink in, because we're so wedded to this date of birth, and the date of birth is asked every damn place you go, and all it is an event in which 1 minute you're enclosed in a nice warm environment, and the next minute you're on the scales being weighed, slapped upside down or whatever it is, the cord cut. It's just an event rather than the beginning of life, and of course that's what they've taken. But it's in and of itself is an arbitrary date, because you could have been born the next day or an hour earlier or induced or all those sort of things. So it is a bit nonsense. I was going to ask you when the jury have come to their deliberations, I assume then that the case is solved whichever way it goes, and the judgment is given, and the punishment, if there is one, is given. This then, unlike the older system or the system that's in existence, this isn't then a business about, oh, this now makes case law, that this is a precedent that we now follow. Presumably, each trial by jury, each one is individual to the man or the woman who have brought the case forward. Would that be fair?
I would say yes, to a degree, but remember, we have had quite a few cases just now. Now, because you're dealing with different issues, everyone sets a sort of precedent. So,
Right.
well, it is case law under common law. Now, what we can do is if we had a case predominantly, say maybe a couple of years ago, and there was a decision reached by the court, there is literally no point in having another case convened for the same thing. So what you can do is you can put forward your argument that based on this previous hearing of case law with the common law court, this applies to us. So you can obviously get a remedy rather than
Right.
just proceeding with the court. But everything we do does create law in this.
Right.
But it's not their system. We don't use their legal system.
No. So, I mean, I'm just thinking if you have a case in which you have, say, an organization, a corporation that is demanding money every year for a certain amount of what they claim to be doing stuff in the town.
Yeah.
I can't think what you might call that. But it would be a corporation that is pretending to be an authority, let's say, and they're demanding money, and they point to some policy that they have that we're allowed, because we dreamt up this policy, to come and knock on your door and claim money from you. And if you then say it came to a common law court and and the jury said, you know what, there is no basis for this. This does seem to be like blackmail. Pay us or we'll put you in prison, or we'll take your car, or we'll do this. And then so if that then came into the point where they said, yeah, no, that's completely unnecessary, that's fraudulent work, that's corruption, we're not having it, that then makes case law that other people, perhaps millions up and down the country, who may have the same problem with these corporations banging on your door and saying, give us some money because we want it, that would then be thrown, everybody could be released from that tyrannical
Yeah.
policy.
What we would actually do is, what we do just now, we can clarify one or two points here. That if people are using the system just now, when they use the common law court site, we do that because it gives us, it establishes our position. Now, if you as an individual, you're a living man, obviously, so I can see a picture of you just now, you could be computer generated.
Well, you never know
I
these
know,
days, what with AI and
the same as
everything.
myself. But what happens is if you're a living individual, what we say is you can use the common law court decision because it's from fellow living men and women. Is
Right.
we would require, as is that you, I would prefer is you confirm your position with the common law court. Now, we don't charge for anything. And when I, because of what happened to Silver before, and when we set up the common law court, we say, look, this has to be available to people. Now, if you have a family, a couple of obviously parents, and then maybe 2 or 3 children, today they're actually struggling because of the so-called bills you're referring to, as is all the bills that the state have.
Yes.
Between that, between utility bills, heating, lighting, and obviously says mortgages or even rent, you then got your so-called various bills to pay for taxation, and again the price of food. These people are struggling to put food on the table. So under no circumstances will we ever, and we've not done from day one, will charge for anyone signing up to the site. It's all free of charge. Now we were contacted by, in the early days, we were contacted by a company in London because they said, look, you can charge for this. Everyone that joins, you can charge a couple of pounds. Now we've got thousands of members. But the point is, we'll not do it. Because if you have a family and a couple of adults and say a couple of children, if you're going to sign up, we do things, for example, you record your birth. You can then claim ownership of the person that's attached to you, which removes you from the state. And there are various other things you can do. But the point is, if you do this and you're spending money each time to do that, even if it's a couple of pounds, by the time you pay for the family, it's taking money away from them. So we never do that. We haven't done that from day one, number one. So the system is available for everyone to use, and they don't have to pay. All they have to do is use the reference numbers they're given. So therefore, when they defend themselves, they say, I am a living man or a living woman. I have confirmed that with my declaration in the common law court. Here's
Right.
my reference number, and that's it. That's all we need. So they
Right.
can use the system here through using this information. But because the common law court develops, it's obviously growing and it develops with the people. What we do is when people come up with ideas, we discuss with various people, as is even internationally, say, right, there is something that we can use at the common law court. So we've developed the process. But I remember, and I apologize, you may be listening now, when we set up the situation with the bus, now we have successfully got children back from social services.
Wow.
Now it
That's good.
happened that this girl was being threatened with the removal of her child. Now, for no apparent reason other, she was on her she was on her own and she was struggling, and we thought it's ridiculous. But she says, well, if I sign up and record my birth under this common law court, will that protect the child? And I said, yes. We had actually recently, just before that, we had someone in Australia was actually granted permanent residency with common law declaration of birth because we'd actually done that and they wanted a birth certificate from the state, but she wouldn't do that. But she'd had recorded it with the common law court. When we confirmed that that was the case, the Australian government accepted it and granted permanent residency with obviously a declaration of birth to the passport, the common law court. So what happened is this girl in the first instance, the girl in the UK, she was concerned. So she actually signed up her birth, she signed up the child, a declaration of her birth. She then took ownership of her legal title, the person attached to the mother, but then the mother, because it was a child, the mother can claim the legal title for the child. So she made the declaration, claimed the legal title for the child, and then says to me, right, that's fine, that's good. We'll need to notify the social services. Can I get a birth certificate? I thought, no, we don't have birth certificates. He said, no, I want a birth certificate. I said, look, you've recorded on the site. There is a record on the site. This is your number. For them and give it. He said, no, I want a physical certificate. You had to go away and speak to a couple of people and borrow some money to actually get a machine to create certificates to do it. But in doing that, we said, right, we'll do it. And we've set it up. He says, but in doing that, we said, right, we've got half the charge for that. So the time and effort in doing that, but we only added a couple of pounds on the certificate. So
Right.
our superior quality to the state that gives the people an option. So if the people want something, they can actually say, I want a copy. So we do that. And what we've done is we have a court seal as well. So we put the seal with the court seal on bottom. Now, that is probably one of the best things we've ever done because we're sending documents all over the world and it's going into courts, it's going into governments, and they're all accepting. They don't.
Right. Oh, that's really interesting, isn't it? So you're creating a genuine public record of like a certificate of somebody's birth or conception, however you want to call it, and that's then being recognised and giving it because it's the public authority, which it should be. I mean, it's not the blooming Bar Guild's made up nonsense or the state's load of old rubbish. This is the public saying, we accept this because we are the people and this is the people's court effectively.
Yeah. Well, that's what we do just now. So as I said, everything comes from the people. That's where the authority comes from.
Yes.
And again, given the fact that people develop and say, look, can we get X, Y, and Z? If it's feasible, it's we sit and discuss and say, right, okay, we'll do it. Now, as I said just now, we don't charge for things like that, but we've actually recently come up with a unique approach, which is literally foolproof. Now, we actually have we've used it recently, literally in the last few weeks. And because of the new approach we have with what we're doing, we've put in paperwork just now, and literally within 9 days, we've actually had a company that enforces court fines for the statutory courts, meaning the High Court and the Magistrates' Courts. We serve this company with paperwork, now bearing in mind that they have the backup of the court system. But when they issued a warrant and said they were going to act on a warrant for refusal to pay a fine, we served this paperwork on them. And as I said just now, they've come back literally about a week later and they've dropped it completely and says, we're not touching it. They said, we've ceased this, it's no longer valid. So that was it. Now that was in court in the UK. And we had another one, he said, literally said the same week. We had someone who was in dispute with a company for a debt. Now the debt was actually £4,800. But he stood by principles and said, no, this is wrong. And what happened is they've been trying to enforce that and they've been hassling them for 4 years. Now, for the 4 years, it included, I think, was 2 or 3 visits by the bailiffs who turned up and were very, very confrontational, bullying. And again, they eventually they said, like, we're taking it to court. So they were going to court, and the individual spoke this and said, well, we're working on documents just now, but because of our position and what we do, and we've also been asked many times, will you come and represent us in court? Well, no, we don't. We don't do that.
No.
We offer a system here. We've got a system. In fact, we've often been asked, can you supply a common law solicitor? Well, no, there's no such thing.
Right.
Have a common law judge that will help us. Well, no, you are the judges. But in relation to this issue, we've compiled the paperwork just now saying we've got this here, which is literally foolproof. And the guy said, all right, I'm sorry, because of what we're doing just now and because we're developing, they said, we will take a fee for this. They said, we'll do that. I said, fine, not a problem. So we actually done the paperwork. Now, bearing in mind, he had a court date 3 weeks later, and he's been hassled for 4 years. He took the paperwork, put it in. Now, when we put it in, it goes to the court, it goes to the company concerned, it goes to the prosecutor, and also it goes to the Attorney General. It was in England. So we done that. So we served the paperwork, put it in. I went there. Now the paperwork's on headed paper. It carries the court seals. So it's all stamped, received. It's got a registration number. So it's all done above board. We put it in. 9 days later, it was 3 weeks later, they went to the court hearing. Now the guy says that beforehand, he said, look, do I need to go to court? I said, well, no, you don't have to. But if somebody's challenging me, I always go to court. Because the point is, if you don't go to court, they'll rule against you.
Right.
Go to court, you can argue. I said, so I will defend myself and I go to court. Now,
Yes.
they normally find throw me out of court, they don't want me in again. But the point is, that's what I do. He said, well, I'm not keen. I said, well, you don't have to. We've sent the paperwork. If the judge doesn't comply with the paperwork, we can prosecute the judge. He said, right, I'm not going. So he did go. So he left it. A week later, he got a letter from the court. Unfortunately, it was a court order. So he got a court order, but the court order from Bristol County Court it was, so it was only a couple of weeks ago. So they had actually came and they said, right, in relation to this case reference number above, the case was called on this day before this judge, and it was on their so-called headed paper with the court logo and all this, and supposedly the seal that had, which is printed, but the judge's name was on. It said the case was called here. We're writing to confirm the judgment of the court. He said, given the fact that neither party appeared, he said, we've now struck off the case, it's dismissed.
Oh, right.
4 years of harassment, right, over this debt and bullying him and coming up with bailiffs, they didn't even turn up. Now, the point is, because they pushed for the date, they've got to go to court. He said, but the judge has to officially sign off. But bearing in mind, because there's a hearing, the judge gets paid for it. So the judge is going to get paid, but had to call on the day in question. But rather than wasting time on a solicitor, they said, we're just dropping it. So they obviously notified the court. The guy himself did go, so it was called and the judge just struck it off. So he's now dropped that. So apart from the fact there was a small payment, he's now saved this £4,800. And again, because of harassment, it opens up the door because he'd be entitled to compensation for harassment because he's proven his case.
Yes.
Now that also happens with so-called taxation. So the point is, what with the people we have, we've actually, through contacts and friends of friends, we've put this paperwork to a barrister who's been in the job for over 30 years, now retired, but he was happy enough to look at the paperwork for us. So when he looked at the paperwork just now, he was actually concerned. He wanted to know who produced it, what was produced, we produced it. But the point is, he was concerned about its use and effectively turning around implying that this would actually get anyone out of jail. Effectively.
Wow,
He said,
that's powerful.
The paperwork we have just now, will address anything that happened in court. Now, if you're speaking about taxation, if you're speaking about loss of property, the loss of your children, even driving, anything, your council tax, anything you want, this will get rid of it. And not only that, but if you turn around and get rid of hypothetically something like council tax, because it's criminal, it points that out, you then don't have to pay it, which is confirmed, but then you can then backdate any payments you've made and you can actually recover the money because you've
Wow.
done your position. So therefore, it opens up the door for them to get compensation anyway, but this will deal with anything. Now, if you had been targeted by the state for some reason or something was done unlawfully and as a result you've lost property or you've been made bankrupt, but it's 10, 15 years ago, it doesn't matter because this can be used for that and it exposes everything that happened. It will reinstate you to the position you should be in. So this is what we're doing, and we've only just been using this recently. But when we've done this in a few cases, we're already jumping and saying, no, that's fine. And that's why I used this in my paper, in my court case a couple of weeks ago. And when I put it in, the judge confirmed that you had the paperwork. So when I went to refer to, he says, I'm not discussing that. He says, I'm arresting you when you run out of court. So that's how good the paperwork is. But as I said,
Right.
deal with anything. So this will be available if people want to do that. And I said, whether or not you wish to pass on, we have an email address if they wish to write in for help and they want to use it. But by using this, what we're insisting is that they stand as living men, because if you haven't made a declaration to the people, and we're not speaking about the Commonwealth or anything, I'm speaking about the people in general.
Mm.
So if you're standing, you say you're living, apart from being a very good computer graphics, okay?
Yeah.
Apart from saying that just now, I need to confirm you exist. Now, if I happen to go out after this meeting and go outside and see a member of the public and they ask what I was doing, I say, I was just on Richard Dogs. And I said, who's that? Oh, and I tried to describe who you are. I have no evidence to confirm you exist.
No, true.
Under common law, you don't. However, because you make a declaration of your birth with the common law court, I can then say, well, Richard Rose, he actually has his own media show. However, he's recorded his birth with the common law court, so he's obviously a living man. There's a record of it. Without
Yes.
a record, you've got nothing. And
Is there any chance that you can be infiltrated by bots or people making up people and saying, oh yes, I declare, and a complete mythological people?
well, what we do is we have people here now. If to overcome the scenario whereby it says someone makes a tough entry, we check every entry. So
Right.
we check them ourselves to obviously see if they're genuine. Now, what we do is the common law court concept and basically the community we have is based on remaining in honour.
Yes.
You come round and wish to use the facilities, we take it that you're honourable. So therefore, you can put your information in. Now, we're not going to challenge it. We're saying, right, you made a declaration, we'll accept it.
Yeah.
However, we find out that that's fraudulent. Not only will you be removed, but you can also be prosecuted by the people in the common law court for what you've done.
Yes.
Therefore, if someone gets to, we will obviously do that. However, when we set up, we were getting entries for date of birth for Mickey Mouse. Sad as it said.
Right.
So you've got the obvious ones, which are ludicrous.
Yes.
Again, based on remaining in honour and making a declaration, unless somebody's going to challenge it, we take people at their word. However,
Right.
that doesn't guarantee protection, because
No.
if it's fraudulent, they will actually be prosecuted. Now, if you're prosecuted by the common law court, that's actually worse than the statutory court. Because if you're prosecuted by a statutory court, the judge, so-called judge they have, has guidelines. He will say, for this offence, I can imprison you, I can fine you, and they're in bands to do as they're told. If common law court, if you're brought before a common law court, a jury, you then have done something wrong, that is presented to the jury. The jury will then give any decision they want. It's basically free, they do what they want.
Yes.
What we do is you cannot do this and say, basically what we're going to do is we're going to obviously get a decision, and obviously we're going to try this, or we're going to be ridiculous with it. What we do is say a decision, because the common law courts are honourable and they're superior to the state courts, we say we're happy to prosecute someone, but to find that they're guilty, there should be no dispute. Now, they're
Right.
guilty or they're not. Now, it's like a child. When a child grows up at birth, when a child grows up, even at a couple of years old, the child will know right from wrong.
Yes.
So it's that obvious. So if you sit down with a jury and you present the evidence, based on the evidence, they will then say, right, okay, yes, there's sufficient evidence they're guilty. And that's it, they're guilty or not.
Right.
If there's any doubt, this is between that and being guilty, it obviously it opens up a question mark. But the point is, we're saying if we have a jury, we will only accept a guilty verdict if it's unanimous.
If it's unanimous,
So if one,
can
yeah,
can a common law court? You said earlier that it deals with living men and living women. I'm presuming now, then, if you wanted to take, say, a business or a corporation to the common law court, would you have to have an individual who works for that? You
we
couldn't
only
take them.
deal we only deal with living men and women. So if
Right.
you want
So
to take someone in charge of a company or a company dispute or a government, what
yes.
you do is you prosecute the individual who's in charge.
Yes, because the
Yeah.
corporation is in of itself not a thing.
No, and
It,
when you prosecute the individual, you prosecute the name, but after the name you say so and so acting in the capacity of, and you put the title down.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
That makes a lot of sense.
committed by the individual. They are
Yes.
prosecuting common law, but the crime is obviously what this individual's done while in that official capacity.
Yeah, well, that makes a lot of sense. We're seeing at the moment the sort of corporation takeover. Everything is becoming corporations, and nobody is taking liability for everything. We get these letters, don't we, that nobody's signed. And you're talking to a dead entity, and you think, well, you don't even exist. Why am I paying for these services that nobody anywhere is actually party to?
Well,
So this does seem to be a great way to sort of bring it back
yeah.
to the people again,
Well,
so that people are much more in
what
charge of things.
what I will say just now, just to let your viewers know, is that basically we prosecuted someone in relation to the issue of council tax. Now, I says forget about the issue of council tax anyway, but what we've done is we've confirmed, even through the common law court, that it's illegal, it's unlawful to do that. So we prosecuted someone and we've issued a court order for them, which they ignored. Now they've ignored the court order and thought, right, okay, that's fine. He says, so we gave them a chance and we've not done it. Because of what we've established and confirmed that the orders are valid, he said they can be done for contempt of court. However, to enforce this, we decided to proceed. So we went to the council and we said, right, okay, this individual is guilty. He says they have to be removed from their position, but they have a fine which they're refusing to comply with. Therefore, as an employee, the council is responsible. We want a copy of your insurance details for cover because we're going to put a claim. Now, they actually turned around and said, well, no, you're not getting that. I said, well, you don't have a choice. It's a valid claim. You need to put this in. And he said, well, we need to see the order. So we gave him the order. He didn't come back. They were given 10 days to do that. And then when they didn't come back, we contacted this individual. He says, look, you failed to come back. He said, now, we're not going to stay that you're complicit in crimes. We're going to say just now that you failed to respond, so we're giving you 48 hours to do so. He says it may be an oversight. He says, however, failure to do that will confirm that you are complicit in crimes. He says also, the failure to provide the insurance details, we will contact the insurance company directly. We'll tell them that you're refusing to hand out these details for a valid claim. He says, and it's as a result of the criminal employee that you have, who's a convicted criminal for committing crimes against the people. So we gave him that. Within 2 days, he came back with insurance details.
Wow.
Went on to the insurance company, which is Zurich. So went on to Zurich, and it took 4 calls to get to the right individual. So we got to the individual and then said, right, you have the order. And they said, right, okay, that's fine, no problem. Can you forward it? So we forwarded the order. And they said, fine, well, we have to get the solicitors to deal with it. He said, that's fine, we'll pass it on to them. So they passed it on to a law firm. It says Waitman's in Manchester, Liverpool, Manchester, Liverpool, Waitman's office there. And this individual come back and said, right, okay, I've just got this, what's it all about? So he says, well, it's a court order that's been issued. He says, which needs to be enforced. Right, okay, can you forward it? So I forward it. This is fine, okay. He said, well, and I phoned them. He said, well, we've never heard of the common law court. I said, well, it's irrelevant, it's a court order. He said, yeah, but we don't know this is what this is. I said, well, it's a court order. it's been issued by the court. He says, you've got the paperwork. He said, yeah, but we don't know. He says, are we allowed to appeal that? I said, no, it's a court order for the people. You cannot challenge it. It's done. The only thing you need to deal with is enforcement. He says, so you need to pay up. And they said, no. He said, well, and she sent an email. She said, right, as far as we're concerned, Zurich will pay any valid claim. However, looking at this paperwork now, we've actually informed them that it's not valid. I thought, oh, that's fine. So I wrote back to the solicitor and said, right, first of all, he says, what you're stating is nothing more than opinion. He says, and while your opinion may be relevant to you, it's worthless to us. He says, however, if you're going to deny this as a valid order, you have to base it on a legal authority. We want you to confirm the legal authority you're relying on. He says, because failure to do so, he says, the valid order and you must comply with it. She didn't get back to me at all for the 4 weeks, wouldn't get back to me. And basically, I then complained to the firm. And I went on to her boss. I was told she was in the office. I was told to put the complaint in. So we put the complaint in. She never got back to me either. Now, what happened literally last week on Friday, at the end of the close of business, we hadn't heard from Zurich for ages. Zurich came back to us with an email and said, look, we have obviously said we're aware of this process just now. We're looking at this. However, it's your writing to confirm that the council, the local authority concerned, have written to us. They have informed us that they no longer wish us to indemnify this claim, and they have said they're dealing with the matter internally. This is sufficient for your needs. However, we're aware that the solicitors have been told the same, so I think they'll be removing themselves as well. So that was it. Now, on the Monday, the solicitors came back, but the solicitors were employed by Zurich. And the solicitors came back and says, further to correspondence, says we've been informed that Zurich has removed themselves. We're now informing you that we're no longer dealing with this and we're removing ourselves. And if you wish to speak this, go on to the authorities. And that was it. And Zurich had said, if we write them in relation to this matter, they will not answer any correspondence. Now, what that's done is Zurich are the insurers. Zurich have to pay valid claims. The solicitors said that they will pay a valid claim. And it's a valid claim because we have a court order which is accepted by the state. However, in relation to the dispute and the authority, because this was going on for a number of years, we actually contacted the authority and we've done a data subject access request. Now, the authority were pains to point out that we can do this. However, it's based on personal information. If you're going to proceed, you have to provide valid proof of ID, name, address, date of birth, and photographic ID. So we put in common law court documents. The common law court documents, that common law passport, were accepted by the council as legally competent, so they've accepted it. But when we produce a court order, the same authority, they'll say, well, we're not accepting that because they can't do it. It's already accepted. So we've pointed that out, nobody speaks this. So we're actually waiting to contact the authority now, having just heard about this. So we're actually now going to contact the chief executive officer and say to them that we need them now to settle up because they have actually told the insurance company not to pay it. But the point is, they said they're dealing with the matter internally, which is fine. So I think the problem is Zurich do not want to pay because if they have to pay for that, it means every single claim for council tax will be refunded.
Yes, they'll be
they're
out
not
of business.
doing it. Yeah, they're not doing it, and they've actually spoken to the council, so they've actually stand and said, right, we'll deal with it. So the council have taken on the solicitors are run for cover. We're now dealing with the council, and at the end of the day, if the council don't deal with it as well, the councillors will be held accountable for obviously the behaviour of the administration side. So we are enforcing these things and we are having success.
Well, that is amazing. That is amazing, and of course, I guess it's early days because once more and more people accept this, the authority will just grow to become much more dominant, and the old system will crumble away. John, I only like to keep these interviews for an hour, and I think we've just spoken over an hour, which is incredible. It's an absorbing subject. Where can people find out more information and join up if they so wish?
We provided some links to yourself, but basically the site is commonlawcourt.com. That's it.
That's it.
So the procedure there, the
commonlawcourt.com.
only thing we'll say is you don't have to fill out anything on the site, but to access the site fully, you create an account. Now, when you create an account, all you do is provide an email address. That is your username, and then you create a password. But when you go onto the site, if you're using the site to fill out any of the forms, always use your email address, the same one, because obviously it keeps everything nice and tidy. We can
Yeah.
through, but that is also your username. But if we do that, that's fine. The main things we would say just now, which is on the homepage, is literally there's four. I would suggest confirming your birth. Now, by making a birth declaration, it confirms a few things. It confirms that you were delivered on a certain date. Now, while you were delivered, is although we're saying that that's a birth date because the state accepted, it's a date of the person was created. However,
Yes.
this is what you're doing is saying that that date was accepted by the state for the birth. However, at that time, you were living. So
Yes.
therefore, it's a confirmation from the common law court. You can then apply for ownership of your legal title, which means you can take ownership of that, which removes it from the state, and then you can create a lawful date of birth, which obviously then confirms that you were living for 9 months before. And not only that, it then makes it difficult for the state to prosecute you because they can't use that date of birth.
They can't use the
It's the
date.
person. And not
Yeah, exactly.
that. It's as if obviously people decide that they want to obviously continue with this, they can join the Korean community. But as I said, the common law court exists to provide a lawful remedy, is there. People turn around and say, we need something, we need a community, we need to work, we have the Korean community there. Free of charge, people use it. And instead of dealing with lots and lots of other things, which obviously they're all valid arguments, they're all applicable, but when you use them, the state ignore them. They ignore Magna Carta, they ignore UCC and everything. They're all right, they're all correct.
Yes.
Judges say, well, not accepting it, you can't do anything. Whereas by using this in the common law court, they can't challenge it because it's out with their control and authority, and it's all under common law.
And it's above their authority.
Yeah.
That's the key thing.
And as
Yeah.
I said, in relation to this, while it's common law, we actually called it out because most people, it's English speaking, understand common law and the concept. But the thing is, this is applicable to everything. Now, it
Yeah.
can be natural law, it could be universal law, it can be the law of the land, it can also be called God's law, or depending on your religion, the Creator's law. It doesn't matter because the four
founding principles, as you said. Yeah, absolutely. Listen, John, I'm going to have to bring it to a conclusion, but thank you so much for outlining that and telling us about it. I think it will have given people a lot of information and a lot of things to think about. The commonlawcourt.com is the website. People can go and check that out. They're probably already sitting there going, hang on, at 9 months back, where was I at that? Which will give them a different, if I think about 9 months ago when I was born, it gives you a different perspective on who you are as well. That's a fascinating thing. Brilliant. I really appreciate your time. Yeah. It's been a great conversation. Thank you so much. I'm sure we'll be in touch again. And let us know of all good results, because I think at the moment people need that positive results to see that this stuff that we're exploring with common law and God's law and natural law is actually making a difference. People are, because it's so easy for it to be swept under the carpet as gobbledygook when clearly the power does reside with the people. I mean, that's so obvious that it's the people that should be making the decisions, not some quango.
No, we have that. We're actually proving that. And as I say, the system we have just now will actually address anything. It will actually stop any court action at all. I'll even preempt it beforehand. But if someone did want to deal with that, they said they wanted information on it, because they sent a query to our email address, which is challenge@commonlawcourt.com. So they send information giving a name and the dispute that they want to deal with. We'll get back to them and help out.
Fantastic. Have you got enough people to cope?
Yes, we do.
Oh, fantastic. Well done.
Okay.
John, thank you so much. There we are, ladies and gentlemen. That's John Smith from the Common Law Court. I'll be back with more monologues and more wonderful guests. But until next time, from John and I, thank you for watching and goodbye.